Hello everyone, welcome again to Page 3 here at News 9 with me, Sakshi Singh Litoria. This is the last episode of year 2025, and as we are inching closer to year 2026, I have lined up some of the big stories and exclusive conversations for today's show. So without any further ado, let's take a look at our nostalgia nuggets for this week. Tyler Chase is one of those former child actors whose story has resurfaced in recent years, not because of a comeback role, but because of a stark reminder of how fragile life after early fame can be. Born in year 1989, Tyler found steady work in Hollywood as a child and teen actor during the mid-2000s, a period when family sitcoms and youth-oriented television were booming. Like many young performers of that era, he appeared in popular shows that reached millions of viewers, briefly giving him visibility and financial stability at a very young age. Tyler Chase is best known for his recurring role as Martin Corley on Nickelodeon's Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, which aired from year 2004 to 2007. The show became a cult favorite for a generation of kids, and while Chase was not one of the three lead actors, his character was memorable enough that fans still recognize him years later. In addition to Ned's Declassified, he made guest appearances on other television projects as well, including an episode of Everybody Hates Chris. He also worked in smaller film roles and short projects, gradually building a resume that reflected a working child actor rather than a one-hit wonder. One of his later credited projects was El Noir from year 2011, where he contributed his voice and motion capture work for the critically acclaimed video game. After that, his on-screen career largely faded from public view. Like many former child actors, Tyler Chase struggled with the transition from structured childhood work to adult life outside the spotlight. Acting opportunities slowed down, and he stepped away from the entertainment industry altogether. Years later, now in year 2025, his name re-emerged in the news after videos circulated online showing him living on the streets in California. Many viewers were shocked to learn that the visibly distressed man in the footage had once appeared on a popular Nickelodeon show. The clips quickly went viral, sparking conversations about the long-term effect of child stardom and the lack of safety nets for former young performers. According to statements from family members and people familiar with this situation, Chase has been dealing with significant mental health challenges. His mother, in fact, has also publicly emphasized that his situation is complex and that simple raising money online is not a solution for him, noting that he needs consistent medical care and professional support rather than temporary financial help. A small fundraiser was also created by well-meaning strangers. It was eventually taken down at the family's request, reinforcing the idea that his struggles go beyond finances alone. Authorities and outreach workers have reportedly offered assistance and shelter services to him, but like many people experiencing homelessness, Tyler has at times declined help. The response from the entertainment community has also been largely sympathetic. Former cast members from Ned's Declassified have expressed their sadness and concern, urging the people to approach the situation with compassion instead of treating it as a viral content. Other actors who have also experienced homelessness themselves, including Sean Weiss of the Mighty Ducks, have publicly offered to help connect with Tyler Chase with treatment and recovery resources, highlighting how common these struggles are within this industry. Tyler Chase's story resonates because it challenges the assumption that childhood fame guarantees long-term security. His career shows that even steady early work does not protect young actors from mental health difficulties, financial instabilities, or life after the camera stopped rolling. More broadly, his experience has become a talking point about how society treats former child stars once they are no longer profitable or visible. Rather than a cautionary tale meant to shock, Tyler Chase's situation has prompted renewed calls for empathy, better mental health support, and long-term care systems for performers who grow out of the public eye and later fall through the cracks. Now it's time for our popcorn pick of the week. I have a very good suggestion for you. Take a look. Alright, so this is the sequel that we all have been waiting for. I'm talking about Avatar Fire and Ash. That feels like the moment James Cameron is ready to test how far the world of Pandora can stretch, not just visually, but morally and emotionally too. As a third chapter in the Avatar saga, the film arrives with enormous expectations after The Way of Water proved that franchise could still dominate the cultural conversation more than a decade after the original. While some of us have already seen it, some of them have already gone to the theatres, everything known so far suggests that Fire and Ash is designed to be the series' most challenging and divisive installment. For those who have just watched the trailer, have not watched it in the theatres, that was the cue for you. Cameron is showing you that this chapter is going to introduce a more aggressive Na'vi clan, often described as the Ash people, who challenge the idea of the Na'vi are universally peaceful guardians of the nature. This is a smart and overdue shift. In the first two films, Pandora functioned largely as a moral counterweight to human greed, beautiful, spiritual, and almost unambiguously good. By introducing the internal conflict among the Na'vi, Fire and Ash appears ready to explore a more realistic ecosystem where powerful, survival, and ideological clash, even among those who share the same planet, is going to shock you all. Visually, the film is very, very good. It continues the Cameron's relentless push for innovation. If Avatar was about the lush forest and The Way of Water was about oceans, Fire and Ash is poised to embrace harsher landscapes, volcanic regions, scorched terrain, and darker color palettes. Red dominating, of course, the color palette. This shift matters because it mirrors the emotional tone Cameron appears to be aiming for. Fire, unlike water, does not soothe or adapt, it consumes. If the previous films invited viewers to slow down the breath with Pandora, this one is going to feel like that it is going to confront them with destruction, rage, and consequence. Narratively, the biggest strength of Fire and Ash may lie in its focus on perspective. The Avatar films have always centered on family like Jake Sully, Neytiri, and their children, of course. But this chapter leans further into the idea that not every side sees itself as a villain. The film has been handled very well. This has elevated the franchise from spectacle-driven blockbuster to something closer to mythic science fiction, where conflicts are fueled by belief systems rather than simple good versus evil logic. This is also where the film is risking and also stumbling. Cameron scripts, as you all know, have historically been straightforward, sometimes even more blunt. Now this one is more morally complex story. It demands subtlety, and it is yet to be seen whether the audiences are completely connecting with the dialogues and character arcs and are going to fully support those ambitions of James Cameron in this particular edition. Another point of intrigue is how Fire and Ash fits into the larger 5-film plan of James Cameron. Cameron has been clear that each installment is meant to stand on its own while pushing the overarching story forward. Now this film, sitting at the midpoint of the saga, carries the burden of escalation forward. It must deepen the emotional stakes without exhausting the audiences. Another risky point here is of Fire and Ash leaning too heavily into darkness without offering much of the moments of wonder or hope. It is risking the feeling of oppressiveness rather than powerful. Ultimately, Avatar Fire and Ash feels like a turning point rather than just a continuation. It signals that the franchise is willing to challenge its own mythology, question its own heroes, and complicate its own message about nature, colonization, and survival. Cameron has succeeded in this one as well. The film is redefining what audiences expect from large-scale science fiction sequels. There are some risky points, as I've already said, that it may still dazzle the eyes while leaving the heart at a distance. Either way, Fire and Ash has ignited the conversation long before and long after the first flames hit our screens. Now it's time for our entertainment wrap of the week, where we gathered the entertaining headlines from the nation and across the globe for you this weekend. Let's take a look. Actor Shivaji held a press meet in Hyderabad on Wednesday after intense backlash. He spoke about Nidhi Agarwal's mobbing incident. Nidhi broke her silence and said blaming victim is manipulation. Kartik Aaryan's new film Tu Meri Main Tera Tu Meri faces flack for making new version of iconic song Saat Samandar Paar. Anand Bakshi's son Rakesh Anand Bakshi took to his Instagram account to state that no other artist should be credited as co-lyricist for the new version just for adding 2 lines to the song. The sequel to Aditya Dhar's Ranveer Singh starrer Dhurandhar will be released in theatres on March 19, 2026 for Eid. First part continues to roar at the box office. Malaysian police banned political speeches, heightened security at TVK chief Vijay's Jana Nayagan sold-out audio launch. Big update in Sanjay Kapoor's estate case. Delhi High Court brought hearings to a close in the contentious civil suit and reserved orders on the interim injunction plea. Ranbir Kapoor and Sandeep Reddy Vaga's blockbuster Animal is releasing in Japan in year 2026. Akshay Khanna walks out of much anticipated Drishyam 3 reportedly due to financial and creative disagreements with the makers. Ranveer Singh steps away from Farhan Akhtar's much anticipated Don 3 reportedly because of some unreasonable demands. A 50-year-old woman has been accused of trespassing BTS member Jungkook's apartment in Seoul, South Korea. Shockingly, this is the third time a person has tried to break into Jungkook's apartment in the last 6 months. Journalist and author Pooja Changoiwala has initiated legal action against Karan Johar and Adar Poonawala's Dharma Productions Private Limited, along with Netflix Entertainment Services India LLP for allegedly plagiarizing her 2021 novel Homebound. With that, we have reached our final segment of the show, which is Crispy Chats of the Week. I sat down for a chat with Madhurima Tuli to speak about her journey through Bigg Boss and much of the projects that she has done afterwards. Let's take a look at what she has to say. Hi Madhurima, thank you so much for speaking to Page 3 here at News 9 with me, Sakshi Singh Litoria. How are you doing?
Hi Sakshi, I am good. How are you?
I am amazing and you are looking very gorgeous.
Thank you. So do you.
Thank you so much. Let's begin, Madhurima, with what's cooking, because I've been seeing a lot of headlines related to you. You are out there in the media.
Well, I have this Amazon show coming up. I am waiting for its release. I'm hoping next year it should be out. That's what, and the next is, I think, my musical short film, which I did for my own channel. That's what I'm waiting for. These are the two projects that I'm waiting for. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Let's see.
Is it going to be something new than what you have done in the past?
Yes, absolutely. Very, very new. I've not done something like this in the past. And yeah, I'm excited about it because it's a completely new genre, new role, new character. So very, very excited. Yes.
You've been a very popular face as far as the TV circle is concerned. You have done fairly well for yourself as far as the film fraternity is concerned, Madhurima. If I could ask you, which one has been the most challenging part of your acting career? Was that the television part or the movie part?
I think both. I mean, just getting a job earlier was very difficult, honestly. Yeah. Just getting a part in a show or a film, it was very difficult. Then once you start getting a part, to play the character again, it becomes it's not very simple. You have to mold yourself into that character and become that character. Like in films, you do get time to prepare your character. So you kind of have the time, you can go according to the director. But in TV, it becomes very difficult because on the spot, you get done like the whole episode and you have to finish that episode in 2 days. So that becomes like a very challenging thing. So both the platform for me has been very, very challenging and yet fun. I mean, it's a learning process throughout.
And you've experimented a lot with the languages too. You've been part of different languages franchises. I want to understand from you which one has been the most difficult one for you and which one has been the closest to your heart, the smoothest ride. Of course, none of them is going to be the smoothest, right?
Smoothest, right?
Terminology I'm using for the comparison to the previous one.
Honestly, South, any language is difficult because you don't know the language. Yeah. Once you know the language, it becomes easier. But South, I mean, they had to literally hold a placard for me to read the lines and go through in the beginning. Yeah. Then gradually, when I started understanding the tongue twisting words, then I got the flow of it. It's very, very difficult. So whether it's Telugu, Kannada, or Tamil, all the three languages are very difficult.
As far as your Hindi movies trajectory is concerned, I want to ask you which one has been, the closest to your heart, an experience that you can never forget.
I think it has to be Warning and Baby.
Mhm.
and of course Tehran also.
Yeah.
I mean, these three projects are very, very close to my heart. I've enjoyed thoroughly in all these projects. Warning was in Fiji for a month shoot. We were all teenagers, youngsters, like doing a film like for Eros. It was a big deal for all of us.
Yeah.
Then Baby, like again a big film. Neeraj Pandey sir, Akshay Kumar sir, the whole team is so big. Again, like a dream come true for me. So that was again like a pinching moment for me. Then Tehran, of course, again like a big, huge moment for me. So
Not
these
just
three
the
are like very
acting.
close.
It's not just the acting that you have done, Madhurima. You have also been part of a lot of reality shows also.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, Big Boss is something that a lot of people would remember you for. But I know for a fact that you were part of other reality shows as well, be it the Fear Factor too. And that
Yeah.
famous gig with Dino Moria. I want to ask you, how has the journey
Fifth.
been through
Yeah.
the years of you experimenting with the reality shows?
So when I came to Bombay, I was like, okay, how do I get in? I mean, it was very difficult to just get in the industry, you know.
Yeah.
So I got this offer for Khatron Ke Khiladi season 3.
Yeah.
And it was in Brazil, and I was like, this is an opportunity. Why should I miss it? It's a lifetime experience. I should just go for it. I didn't know who's gonna be opposite me, what is happening. I just went for it. And later I realized, that, these are the boys, and we are opposite them, and mere opposite Dino Moria. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I was just blown away. So it was like again, I was like, ye ho kya raha hai? So it was and then I had to do those stunts. Oh my God, again, a lifetime experience. I mean, so I've had a very adventurous life. It has been like a roller coaster, adventurous life, and God has been kind. Yeah.
What about Big Boss? How did life change after that?
It has changed a lot. I mean, personally also and professionally also, definitely. I've become a much more calmer, much more a different person, because I was more uh, naive and childish earlier. I think I've realized that, and then though I was doing projects which were very, very strong and good projects, but somehow I think I had to evolve myself also to do a more better projects. And I think Big Boss helped me with that, because it helped me grow as a person. I had, of course, I had a lot of ups and downs in the show. I mean, everybody has it. It's that kind of a show. I mean, but honestly, I had no idea. Like almost, if you noticed, एक हफ्ते तक I didn't utter a single word in the show. You know, I mean, I was very quiet, very चुपचाप रहने वाली. Then suddenly everybody poked me like, इसको रखे कैसे? ये show में चल कैसे रही है? How is she surviving this show? But she's not even doing anything. And that's when I like, okay, fine, let me just be a different person altogether. And I kind of picked up Tanu's character, and I started
Yes.
becoming that. So I was like, okay, let me be Tanu then over there. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Did you follow the other Big Boss seasons after you came out of your one?
Not really. I mean, I saw clips. I couldn't follow it because you're continuously doing something or the other. It's difficult to follow. But I did see a few clips on the Instagram and everywhere on YouTube.
Were you following this one, the latest one?
I saw. I mean, few. I mean, I'm not thoroughly, but I saw some of the episodes. Yes.
Was there any personal pick that you wanted to see as a winner?
Oh, I have no idea. No, I can't. I can't comment on that. No, I don't know.
Also, one thing about Big Boss is after your season, I believe Big Boss started picking up some of the outsiders too, some of the common man, some
Yeah.
of the YouTubers, and
Yeah.
the social media creators. So, how did you view that? Because in your particular season, like everybody was famous.
Yeah.
Everybody was known in their respective circles.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the trajectory all of a sudden changed. Did you also analyze that you wanted to also experiment with people from outside world also? You wanted to be part of that any other season?
I think I'm very happy with Big Boss 13, whatever it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. I mean,
Highest TRP till now.
Yeah, highest TRP, and people were like, they were all very celebrated in their own genres wherever they were good personalities in the show, and uh, I think I had fun. I enjoyed it. I don't know how it's gonna be when I go inside. If there are outsiders, I don't know how it's gonna be. So till now, Big Boss 13 was, I think it was a great show. I mean, it ended in a little a weird way, but I had fun.
One name which will still be remembered, and fans do not, let one day pass without having his name being mentioned on the social media, would be Siddharth Shukla. He happened to be on your season.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So anything that you learned from him, any episode or any moment with him that you still remember?
There were lots of moments. I think we've had some fun banters together,
Yeah.
and yeah, so which audience still enjoy it. They still tag me on some post, and when I watch it, I cherish it. I mean, it's just some memories which will be in your heart forever. And yeah, I think those moments were like, I think he's the one who made me really comfortable. Him and few more, of course, Shenaz. So yeah, I think he was one of them who started that friendship, and he made it a little more comfortable for me to stay in that house.
Madhurima, coming back to your work, there is one question that I really am curious about, is about television actors entering the mainstream Bollywood or mainstream film industry. They often feel some restrictions coming their way because they get typecasted that आपका तो background television का है. So there is some sort of an opinion, a taboo that comes with television actors. Did you also face something like that?
Now I'm kind of understanding what typecast is. Earlier, ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं मेरे साथ because I got baby.
Yeah.
I got warning. I was doing TV also, and I was doing film also.
Yeah.
But I think gradually now, when I've done a lot of TV, then people are a little skeptical casting me for films. I think, but ऐसा कुछ मुझे बोला नहीं गया है कि because you've been in TV too much, so you've been typecasted like a reality show girl, or ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं है. मतलब I'm still getting offers for shows for OTT platforms. So I think now people have become more flexible casting. They choose a character who goes with the script rather than just a star or a OTT actor. They're choosing everybody now.
मुंबई को सपनों का शहर कहते हैं. It's the city that never sleeps. People keep dreaming, and everybody go there with a small dream in their heart, in their mind, that they also want to be in front of the cameras. Are there still some points where you struggle to just reach some doors, or just to land to a perfect script for yourself, even after having spent so many years and having a huge experience as far as your work is concerned?
I do have to struggle. I mean, I still right now at this moment I have to give auditions, which is okay. I'm okay with that, and I have to wait for their call to come, whether I've been selected or not selected. So that's a struggle which I think will be there till the time you're not. I think till the time you're not like a superstar, you have to give auditions. You have to give a look test. It's very it's okay because you have to fit the character also. But yes, once you become a little stronger, like once you've done a little stronger roles, I think it becomes easier for you to fit in the bill for a different character, because they know the directors have that in their mind that I want this particular character. I know she'll mold herself into that character. So that ways it becomes easier. So for me, I am getting roles, but also sometimes I have to audition also. So it's both ways.
And I want to ask you, since you're a female actor, this is a point that I usually ask the female actresses, because there are some underlying insecurities that you work on throughout your life. Was there anything that you were insecure about while you were young, and then you worked on it, and now you can successfully say that you've overcome it?
A lot of things. I was insecure about my looks. I was insecure about the way I talk. I was insecure. I was an insecure person in general because you don't feel when you're younger. You don't feel confident. You don't. I mean, whether you are pretty or not pretty, you're still like whether you'll be loved by people. You'll be loved by the audience. You'll have that question always. Once you grow in life, keep growing, and then you realize, okay, it's not about the people, it's about you. You need to love yourself first. People will automatically start loving you. So that's what I overcame, and I'm a much more confident person, and I'm happy about that. Uh, yeah, and I just live for myself right now, and my family, and my few close friends, and much. I was always a kinder person, but Mumbai, 'cause sometimes it makes you a little, it changes you sometimes,
Makes you tough.
and it makes you tough. Yeah. So I'm trying to become much more softer again.
What are the learnings that you are taking to year 2026? What has year 2025 taught you?
Well, to never just live your life. I think that's the most important thing. Rest, everything keeps happening. For me, it was always like that. I used to be just carefree, living my life, and automatically things happen to me.
Mhm.
So I think that's the plan. Just focus on your body, focus on your mind, evolve, live your life, and automatically you'll see the changes happening in your life.
That's really nice. And last but not the least, I want to ask you any one movie or show that you watched in year 2025 and you wish that you were part of it.
My God. Okay, so there are so many. Okay, Lapata Ladies, 12th Fail.
Yeah.
So the list can go on and on. So yeah. So yeah.
That's really nice, Madhurima. It was lovely speaking to you.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, it's time for me to bring the show to a close in year 2025. I wish you a very happy new year. On the other side, in year 2026, I'll see you with many more stories and many more exclusive conversations. Till then, stay entertained, enjoy your new year. Bye-bye.